Born Spangler Arlington Brew, Robert Taylor began displaying a diversity of talents in his youth on the plains of Nebraska. At Beatrice High School, he was a standout track athlete, but also showed a talent for using his voice, winning several oratory awards. He was a musician and played the cello in the school orchestra. After graduating, he thought of music as a vocation and started studying music at Doane College in Crete, Nebraska. In the early 1930s, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps and study medicine. He enrolled at Pomona College but also joined the campus theater group and found himself in many lead roles because of his handsome features. He was inspired to go on to the Neely Dixon Dramatic School, but about a year after graduating from Pomona, he was spotted by an MGM talent scout and given a contract in 1934. That same year, he appeared in his first movie, on loan out to Fox for a Will Rogers entry, Handy Andy, 1934. He also did an MGM short, Buried Loot, 1935, for its Crime Does Not Pay series, which provided good exposure. However, the next year he did even better by being cast as the lead, again on loan out, this time to then struggling Universal Pictures, in Magnificent Obsession, 1935, with Irene Dunne. The story of a happy-go-lucky party guy who inadvertently causes blindness to the young lady he wishes to impress and then becomes a doctor in order to cure her. The movie was a big hit, and Taylor had a taste of instant box office stardom. Along with his good looks, Taylor already showed solid dramatic skill. However, critics viewed of him as a no-talent flash in the pan getting by on his looks, a charge levied at his closest contemporary comparison, Tyrone Power over at Fox. He had to endure some brutal reviews through his first years in Hollywood, but they would soon fade away. In 1935 alone, he appeared in 7 films, and by the end of the year, he was at the top of his form as a leading man and being offered substantial scripts. The next year he appeared with Greta Garbo in Camille, 1936, and for the remainder of the decade MGM's vehicles for him, not to mention a pantheon of top actresses, clicked with audiences. On a personal level, despite his impressive family background and education, Taylor would often strike those who met him as a mental lightweight. Intellectually inclined actress Louise Rayner was shocked when she struck up a conversation with him at a studio function in 1937 when, after asking him what his goals were, he sincerely replied that his most important goal was to accumulate a wardrobe of 10 fine custom-tailored suits. That he usually comes across on screen as having a confident, commanding presence is more of a testimony to his acting talent than his actual personality. He held rigid right-wing political beliefs that he refused to question and, when confronted with an opposing viewpoint, would simply reject it outright. He rarely, if ever, felt the need to be introspective. Taylor simply felt blessed to be working behind the walls of MGM. His affection for the studio would blind him to the fact that boss Louis B. Mayer masterfully manipulated him for nearly 2 decades, keeping Taylor's salary the lowest of any major Hollywood star. But this is also indicative of how much trust he placed in the hands of the studio's leaders. Indeed, Taylor remained the quintessential MGM company man and would be rewarded by remaining employed there until the demise of the studio system in the late 1950s, outlasting its legend, Clark Gable. Though not quite considered treasures to be locked away in film vaults, Taylor's films during the first 5 years of his career gave him the opportunity to explore a wide spectrum of romantic characters, playing young officers or doctors more than once. Some noticeable examples of the variety of roles he took over a year's time were his chip-on-the-shoulder Lee Sheridan in A Yank at Oxford, 1938, Ladies' Man, boxer Tommy McCoy in The Crowd Roars, 1938, and cynical Southern gentleman Blake Cantrell in Stand Up and Fight, 1939. Taylor would truly become a first-rate actor in the following decade. By the 1940s, he was playing edgier and somewhat darker characters, such as the title roles in Billy the Kid, 1941, and smooth criminal Johnny Eager, 1941. With the arrival of the war, Taylor was quick to make his contribution to the effort. As an actor, he made 2 memorable combat movies, Stand By for Action, 1942, and the better-known, and for the time, quite graphic, Baton, 1943. From 1943 to 1946, he was in the U.S. Naval Air Corps as a lieutenant, instructing would-be pilots. He also found time to direct 2 flight instruction training films, 1943, and other training films for the Navy. Rather didactic in his ultra-conservative political beliefs, he became involved in 1947 as a friendly witness for the House Un-American Activities Committee investigating communist subversion in the film industry. Anyone who knew Taylor knew he was an arch-conservative but doubted that he could articulate why. He publicly stated that his accepting a role in Song of Russia, 1944, was bad judgment. In reality, it was against his nature to balk at any film assignment while at MGM, and that he considered the film pro-communist. He also rather unwittingly fingered fellow actor Howard Da Silva as a disruptive force in the Screen Actors Guild. Although he didn't explicitly accuse Da Silva of being a communist, his charges of disruption had the same effect, and the veteran actor found himself blacklisted by the studios for many years. After the war and through the remainder of the decade, Taylor was getting action roles to match his healthy box office draw, but there were fewer of them being offered. He was aging, and though he had one of his best-known roles as the faith-challenged General